Whether you're walking down the street, taking a hike in a nearby forest, or if you're 10,000 feet in the air on an airplane, one thing is common: the color and the spark that color gives people in the presence of the environment. This belief of black and white is contrary to the natural side of Earth and architecture. The green leaves popping in the spring and the autumn orange and red leaves in the fall give you a different sense and a feel when you're in those environments outside. The same goes for the color of the wall. A green wall may give you a different feel than a yellow or a red, and a darker toned wall makes the room feel smaller than a lighter shade wall. And that brings us to where we are today: black and white, the absence of color and what that does and interprets the architecture. As you can see in this Gothic architecture image, the emphasis of different elements, how the light shines in, the detail of the Gothic columns and arches. All these things, if there was color, would still be just as beautiful, but would you notice them the same? Would the clear story windows really shine? Would the detail and the ornament of this Gothic piece be as special? Now, black and white may not be a fix-all in architecture, and it may not be a realistic option. You cannot just turn your eyes to just see black and white. But what if you could? What if architecture was viewed from a black and white perspective? A lot of the times it is, in fact. You see the beginning stages of architecture. Black and white and the psychology and what they mean. Black is most common in associations with power, authority, and strength, darkness, professionalism, and mystery. In the dark, you may not see everything. Sometimes it makes you feel powerful. Sometimes you feel scared in the dark. Now, on the other hand, white is considered more safe and open. As I mentioned earlier, with the lighter tone walls, it makes the space feel bigger. In fact, it deceives the eyes and gives you a different perspective. White is also linked directly to good and peace. Purity is also known. But as you can tell, these two colors are completely contrasted. But when you bring them together in sketching and other architectural elements, they are really powerful and strong. As you can see in this sketch, the shadows, the dark shadows, bring out the lightness in the columns and the rest of the structure. You can see some materials are described as white and some are dark. And then there is the faint line work in between that kind of blurs the lines. Architecture as black and white in sketching is an initial step. You don't see color when you're sketching, you're just thinking of the ideas. It really boils down to a simple level of architecture. And you can see all these visually are just a common style, but are very powerful. Some are much lighter overall and emphasize the outlines and are much more simpler than some of these other complex interiors, where shading is very important to distinguish the light, the medium, and the dark. Now this image is very powerful to me. When I was doing searches, it stood out in a way. This is a sketch drawing pen, but it's more than that. It shows the voids in the city. It shows the openness of the paper around it and how the negative and positive space is created through the light and the dark coloring. Now, the absence of pen is starting to create and develop form with the darkness creating void spaces. It's not always necessary to have multiple colors. Sometimes one color or drawing just one or two sides of an object can create a deception and a perspective of the eye that leads to developing the rest of the building. Now, from sketching, you go to the next step, which becomes plans, sections, but there's another level of complexity. Now, normal floor plans are pochade in black text. Those are the more powerful moments that stand out. And you can see the white is just consistent in the background. But what if that was switched? What if the roles were reversed? Okay, you see how common and easy to read these styles are. But if we go back up to the top, I know you saw them. These may not be plans, but they're details. You can see how the white pops. All of a sudden, as we read before, how black was so powerful and commanded respect, the white is the one owning the power, standing out, not afraid to ruffle some feathers. And you can see in this what it looks like to be an Apple Watch detail. The black becomes the background, and the white becomes the focus. Now, in all instances, this does not correlate, but in certain specific drawings, by inverting the black and white and the hierarchy of which one you use, it can make a huge difference. The importance of poche and the necessity of popping the walls out with a highlighted dark color to accentuate the rooms and the lighting, the scale, and the hierarchy. Poche is very common, but it's also contrasted with similar building styles without poche, where shading is substituted, or line weighting, where the exterior lines are weighted higher to emphasize different elements. Now, there are so many ways to do drawings. These are just the basics. But what if architecture became real life, black and white? What if this building render actually looked like this, where you're coming in at night, you see this light material, but it has become darker as the sun has set and the moon starts to come out. But the lights from the inside, as the homeowner is still active, the light penetrates outside and illuminates certain areas. As you can see, the patio is still illuminated, but as you walk out further into the landscape, it becomes dark, treacherous, and just the motions that are brought out with the colors of architecture. Now, that was just a rendering, but in real life, you can imagine this scene with color. It is so real, but it tricks your mind into really seeing the light and the movement. You can see the dark people, but also the movement and scale they create, the trees in contrast to the buildings, but you can see the activity of the buildings. They're more exteriorly focused right now. The lightness of the buildings, it's very light on the outside in contrast with the dark night sky. But on the inside, you can see the passiveness, the dark windows showing that no one's inside. Everyone is more outside. Now, black and white in architecture can mean a lot of things. It can just be giving you a different perspective, truly understanding what you were designing without all these fancy renderings and colors. I implore you, next time you decide to work on a project, you take a careful look through this video, come back through this video and look through the processes to see, okay, I'm at this certain step. How can my section benefit from poche? Just black and white, no need to render the perspective, just the basic construction drawings using minimal textures, but mostly focusing on the void and the solid, the positive and negative space, the black and the white. Now, if you like this video, please tag along and subscribe for more content like this. I will also continue to put out shorts and other videos coming up. Like this video, comment if you have any questions about what I talked about, or if you have any recommendations about things you'd like me to create or talk about. Thank you.